Welcome back. Scottish saxophonist Scott Murphy came to Hong Kong in 2018. Since moving here, he's been playing both jazz and popular music and has become a regular face on the local jazz scene. Last August, Murphy saw the legendary jazz pianist Fred Hirsch in concert in Tsuen Wan Town Hall. Hirsch's performance left him so energized that he was inspired to work on his own debut album, A Dream of Form. Scott's with us right now.
Well, Scott, it's great to have you here in the studio.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure for me to be here.
Oh, you bet. It's really great that we get to talk about this new album project that you've put together. To begin with, though, can you just sort of paint the picture broadly of what the album is trying to do, or musically, sort of where it fits into, you know, the scheme of things?
Yeah. So the album itself is something which, for me, it happened almost by accident. A lot of the way that I view this album is that there were some events that came about, I got in touch with people, and then all of a sudden I was in the recording studio making an album. For me, because this is my debut album, it's the first time that I've put anything out that has my own name on it as opposed to being a part of another group. I wanted to have a project which really spoke about my own experiences and how I learned music, like where I came from, what I was doing with music. And one of the best things about this album is that it features a special guest bass player from LA called Yannick Gwizdala, who had such a fundamental part of my musical upbringing, my musical growth.
How was that? I mean, what was the influence there?
It was unbelievable, actually, because he had an album which came out in 2008 called Live at the 55 Bar, which was a live album, obviously. That album became almost a seminal part of my university experience. Like, my friends and I, we would transcribe the songs, the solos, we'd go out and play it around the UK. So all of that music has been inside of me for about 15 years by this point. And then I got the opportunity to have him on my own recording, work with him, make this music with him. It was a really special time, actually, yeah.
So you've mentioned this recording, made at the now shuttered but iconic jazz venue, the 55 Bar. Yes. But what was it about that particular album that really captured you? I'm a real fan of the Mason Brothers, by the way, and they're on there, so,
yep.
So I know that's good.
You know, one of the first things that really jumped out at me listening to that was Elliot Mason, the trombone player, because he's on it's a valve trombone, isn't it?
It's a bass trumpet.
It's a bass trumpet,
yeah.
Okay. So I'd never heard anything like that before. And I was listening to this primarily because one of my friends is a bass player. We lived together at the time, and he said, check out this Yannick Gwizdala record, and he'd found it online somewhere. And I was enjoying it. I was enjoying all of the instrumentalists on it. Justin Vasquez is the saxophone player, which obviously I was drawn to. Tim Miller was the guitarist with all these crazy things that made his hand look like it was breaking. But Elliot Mason's bass trumpet playing, that was a real revelation for me. I'd never heard such melodic content from an improvisation trombone player. And to me, that really opened up a lot of how I viewed this kind of groove style of jazz music, which was very much a kind of early 2000s New York scene. So for me, it's, like I said, it's been ticking away in the back of my mind for years. Really taking a lot of inspiration from listening to that, which I still do to this day.
Were there any other inspirations that kind of came to you or that contributed to this?
Yeah. All of this came from a concert I was seeing. I went to see the great Fred Hirsch, the piano player, he's one of my top jazz musicians. And I was in this concert, I was watching Fred play solo piano, and it was one of those experiences where 90 minutes just disappeared. And I got caught up and excited by the music. I felt so inspired. I floated out of the venue and bumped into CY. And he said, oh, actually, for this gig, I've got Yannick Gwizdala coming over to play. And because I was caught up in this musicality, this limitlessness of music from hearing Fred Hirsch play, I thought, oh, can you give me Yannick Gwizdala's number? I'm going to try to get him to do a recording. And then I just fell down this rabbit hole, and we're here.
It seems like such an incredible then coincidence or serendipity, I suppose, that you had this opportunity to record with this bass player whilst he was in Hong Kong, right? And then you brought in some other top musicians as well. Tell me about the contributors to the album then.
Yeah, of course. Yannick Gwizdala was the first person I booked for this. And I know his playing so well. I also knew that we only had 4 hours to do the recording in, which is a challenge. So I had to pick a small band of people that I knew I could trust. So the first person I called was Daniel Chu, the incredible keyboard player from Hong Kong. He's such a visionary in terms of sound. He always thinks about things from the starting point of what is the sound I want and how can I best describe this? And it changes any of the music you give him. I also knew that I wanted someone that had exceptional time, a real kind of feel for groove and playing in the pocket to link up with Yannick's bass playing. And the first person I thought of in Hong Kong was Paget Fresh Kid Nanton, he's one of these guys that he's always playing with a bunch of different types of people. If you get him on a project, he's going to come in and play some excellent groove. So he was precisely the final piece of this jigsaw for me.
You can play something for us here in the studio. What can we hear, and presumably material that's based or from the album?
Absolutely. So what I would like to play with my fantastic friend, piano player Adriel today, we're going to play the first song on the album. It's called Junta. And I think this is the first song that I actually had finished for the recording. I wanted to have a song which had a really kind of incessant, almost groove that drove almost machine-like throughout, a pulse that went throughout this whole song, a melody that kind of would come back but slightly change. It would have a different alteration the second time through, with space to have improvisation going on as well. So I think, if possible, I'd like to play Junta just now.
Fantastic. I can't wait to hear it.